Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's training session. We would be looking at I have a couple of things on my list of topics to cover today. We would be looking at negative testing. We would be looking into assertion. I know we did an assertion in the last training class session on Friday, so we'll look into another type of assertion today. We would also be looking into scenario outlines and how you can use them, and we'll also be looking into backgrounds also. And we're going to also touch on driver.quit and driver.close. So those are the main items that we'll be covering today in the session. But before I go on, how are we all getting on with the session we had on Friday? I know last week Friday we finished up we ran the full automation for the valid registration feature file that we currently have. So I want to believe everyone is up to date. I know Adetunji mentioned that he's having issues with his element, but aside from that, are we all caught up to where I stopped on Friday? Has anyone been able to fully run the test like I did on Friday as well? Can I have a show of hands quickly, or you can just unmute yourself and speak, or you can put in the chat as well. Okay, I have seen Ridwan said yes. That's good. Emmanuel raised up his hand. Anyone else? I don't want anyone to be left behind. Doka said I'm in progress. That's good. I don't want anyone to be left behind. If you're having issues, as usual, speak to your buddies and mentors. And if you can't reach out to them or no one can help you, speak to your colleagues as well. You don't know if he or she may have passed the step that you're trying to resolve. And if you don't have any response from any of those line of communication, you can then post into the QA Guild group chat. But I don't want anyone to be left behind. I want everyone to be all up to date. And my other question for today is, has anyone been able to start automation for your automation task on your boards? Has anyone been able to write the feature file, the step definition, gotten your element, and even try to run the test as well? Has anyone done that? Quickly, can we get a response quickly? Anyone at all? Okay, I'm just going to say that the main purpose of the automation sessions that we have is for you to actually try to automate any of the automation stories on your board. So you shouldn't just limit your practice to what you've done in the online sessions. You also need to try out the test environment that you have, write your feature files, your step definition, because that is how you would learn. And obviously, if you have any issues, you can post in the QA group chat and just mention that, oh, this is the URL I'm testing. This is where I'm encountering a blocker, or I don't know what to do next. And that's just what I want to be seen in the group, because I just feel like the group is so quiet during the week. And towards this next session, then people start posting things inside the group. The group is just too quiet. So it'll be good if people are actually, even if you try to automate something and it passes, you can post in the group chat to show that, oh, I've tried to automate this and this and this and it passed. It will be some form of encouragement to other people in the group chat as well. So it'll be good if we can see that going forward. But I just know that the group is just too quiet, and that shouldn't be the case. Yeah, Emmanuel, you have your hand raised up.
Yes. A question, please. Like, okay. I can remember when we were testing what we are testing now, there was a time that you sent an URL to test. When we try to do it, we were unable to use it. You understand? So like, let's assume I have just a neutral website to check, or the one I'm working on. Will this always work? Because if that did not work, that means there is probability when I'm working. You understand? I just want to know, maybe like when you have a framework set up, is it universal? When you start putting things, it will work, or sometimes it won't pick certain things because of the way the website is structured? I don't know if you understand my question.
Yeah, so the website that Mr. Deji sent, it wasn't a case of it wasn't working. The website works, but I did not want to automate. I did not want to automate that website on that day because of what I was going to do. I was going to use JavaScript, and that was going to cause confusion for everybody. So that was why I decided not to use that website. So that was why I decided to use the other website that we're currently using, which was easy to use. So the website works. And if you were in the class last week, Friday as well, I mentioned that I wasn't going to be able to use that website on that Friday when we started Gislenti again, because I had not tried it by myself to figure out what the solution was. But I have figured it out now, and that's the website we're going to be using today. So the website works. I just decided not to use it because I didn't want to confuse everybody at the start. So that was the
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so moving on into today's session, we are going to be, let me bring up the website we will be using today. Right, so we will be using the automation form website, the same website as before, but the only thing is the locators have changed. So going forward, we're going to be using this website, but the thing that you need to do now is to change the locators that you currently have in your automation pack. So I've gone ahead to do that by myself before the class because I didn't want to waste time. So I basically changed the locator for the first name, last name, basically every single field. And the ones I've commented out are the old locators on the former website. And these ones that are currently not commented are the new locators. So I'm going to encourage everyone to get the new locators and just basically replace what you have in your pack with the new locators. And if you can't remember how to locate elements, we are going to also try that again today. But I just wanted to mention that you need to change the locators that you would be using. If you're going to be using this URL, you need to change your locators and get in your locators basically. So I'm going to try to run my tests now. I've not done anything. The only thing I've done is to basically just change my locator and also my URL. This is the URL I'm using now. I'm no longer using the old one. I'm using the new URL. And I've also changed all the locators for all the different fields, the first name, last name, email, height, vegan option. I changed the locator as well. The location, basically every single field, I had to get new locators for them. I think the only one I didn't get a new locator for was the submit button. And I'm not sure, maybe that's because I used by name. So the name is the same on the two websites. But if you're going to be using XPath or ID, or you've used it before, then you need to change the locators that you have on them. So I'm going to go on to run my feature file now. I've not made any change at all. I'm just going to run the feature file to see if, because the last time we tried it, it wasn't bringing up the the first name field and last name field up on the screen. So I'm going to try to do that now by just running the test. So I'm going to rebuild my project. And I'm going to run the feature file. Okay, so it looks like it's finding the locator for the first name field and it's filling everything in. But you can see that it failed. It did not go ahead to click on the career progression. And another thing you will notice is that on this page, we now have the cookie button on the page, or on the new website. We have the cookie button. On the old website, we didn't have that. And another thing you should also take note of is that the cookie button is blocking the career progression options from being found. So the first thing we would usually do when we have a cookie button on a page is to tell Chrome driver to click on accept or decline, or click on the OK button. So in this case, we would need to add a new line in our step definition to tell Chrome driver to click on the cookie button if it finds it on the page. So what we need to do now is to go back to our IntelliJ, and you can obviously see that it failed. And another thing that I noticed before I go on is that whenever we run our automation test, if it fails or it passes, it doesn't show us like the list of tests that I've run. So one thing I'm going to encourage you to do is when your test is running or is finished running, you can just click on this tick over here that says showed passed, because it's usually not ticked. But if you click on the ticked one, it's going to be showing you all your tests that I've run, the ones that passed and the ones that failed as well. So I'm going to mention it again when I'm running the test again fully. So we know that it failed on, and I select my career progression. So basically it's saying element click intercepted. So that element for the career progression was intercepted by this cookie button. So Adetunji, this is the solution to the issue you're encountering right now, I believe. So we need to accept this cookie button. And in order to do that, we basically just right click, inspect. We're going to wait for that to load up. And wait for this one to load up as well. And once you click on, I'm trying to select an element, basically the first icon here, click on the first icon and go to your cookie bar, and you need to inspect the element for OK, because that's what you would be clicking on. And we already have the element here. So I'm going to pick the one that says ID. I'm going to pick the one that says find element by ID. I'm going to copy that. And as usual, I'm going to check that the match is 1 of 1. And I can see that is 1 of 1. So I'm going to go into my IntelliJ. And I need the cookie to be clicked on before I actually enter my first name. So that means that I'm going to have to put the code for the cookie button before the first name field. And this is the one that says driver.find element .send keys for my first name, driver.find element .send keys for my last name. But I want the cookie button to be clicked on before I fill in the first name and last name. So I've gotten the locator already, driver.find element by ID. Then what action am I telling Chrome driver to do?
To click.
Thank you. Not click. Now, the way the test is going to run now is it's going to load up the page. It's going to go to the URL, load up the page. It's going to expand the page to my screen resolution. Then it's going to click on accept cookie button. Then it's then going to fill in my name, first name, last name, and all the other fields as well. So we can obviously try this now to see what happens. I'm going to rebuild the project again. And then I'm going to run. Brilliant. So you can see that all the scenarios passed. Navigate to the URL, everything passed. It clicked on the career progression. Then it also did the submitting of form and also the, oh, I was not meant to copy that. And also the assertion that we have on the then step as well was also done. So basically, we really don't need to use JavaScript to scroll on the page. But if we do have a situation whereby the first name field, let me go back. So we can have a situation whereby the first name field is probably not showing as clear as this. So what we can do in that case is to implement JavaScript to scroll this field into focus. So the way we do that, I'm going to show you how to do that now, and we would also run that in our test. So if we go back to IntelliJ, and then we go back to where we want to implement that code. So obviously, given I navigate to the website, Chrome is going to open up the website, maximize the page. It's going to accept cookie. So I want to put the code before it accepts the cookie. I want the first name field to be like in focus on like at the very top of the screen, not at the bottom of the screen like we see it. So how do we do that? So this is where JavaScript comes in, and you can obviously Google all of these codes online. And how do you Google? Basically need to put in specific keywords on Google, how to scroll up on a page using Java Selenium or using JavaScript. You can just say using JavaScript. That was what I typed in. So how do we do that? So we have an import called JavaScript executor. And this JavaScript executor is also like the web driver that we have here. So basically the same, it's performing the same function. So it's sort of like an interface. So this JavaScript executor is like an interface. So JavaScript executor, then what name do we want this JavaScript executor to be called anywhere in the automation pack whenever you want to use it? I want it to be called JS. You can also call it something meaningful as well, JavaScript executor. You can see it's a small j and not a capital J. So I'm just going to use JS instead because it's just shorter and it just looks nicer to me, to be honest. But yeah, I'll call it JS. And then we have JavaScript driver. And in order to implement the method that is going to bring up the first name field up into focus, so the method we're going to be using is called execute script. Execute script. And I'm going to pass some arguments inside of the script as well, because the execute script method accepts either a string and an object argument or a script key and an object argument. So you can find this particular code. I just copied it on Google. I used it and I modified it. I added it into my code and I obviously modified it as well. So before you are able to obviously modify a code, you need to understand what you need to change and where you need to change it within your code as well, and where you also need to put it within your code. So the argument that is always passed in here is sort of standard, and there are different arguments based on what you want JavaScript to perform. But right now, I want JavaScript to bring up the first name field into focus. I want it to bring it up into focus for me, and Chrome driver should basically just focus on that and fill in the field. So I'm going to add an argument. Scroll into view. So this right here is my script, my string script. And then the other argument that this execute script accepts is an object. And the object in this instance is going to be the locator for the first name field that I want it to bring into focus for me. So how do I get the locator? I already have the locator for my first name field in here. So all I'm going to do is to just copy and then paste. So that's it pasted, and I'm going to add I need to add my semicolon at the end to close that bracket. Brilliant. So obviously, when I copied this online, the only thing that was different there, or the only thing that would be different there if you find it online, is going to be the locator that I meant to fill in here. So usually people so we use something called page object. So when you probably have copied a code from Google or something, and the person has used the page object, the locator is not going to be as long as this, is going to be shorter than this. So all you need to do is to basically just fill in this part with your own locator that you have in your own code. So good. So I have filled in the code here for my JavaScript to move the page into focus. Then thereafter is going to click on cookie for me before filling in the first name and last name field. So I'm going to run my code now so you see what JavaScript is going to do. Actually, let me put a breakpoint here. So I'm going to debug this code so you see what JavaScript does, because if I run it, everything is just going to run fully and you wouldn't see what happens. So let us run. Actually, we'll debug. Okay, something happened. Same argument is not defined. Let's try that one more time. I'm not sure if anything happened. I wasn't looking. Okay, nothing happened. Okay, argument.0. Arguments. Yes. So I missed out an S here. Argument. So let's try that again and let's see what happens. Is something weird is happening? Argument. Scroll interview. Okay, what if we click on cookie first of all? So I'm going to move this one. Let me see if this makes any difference.
Can you check the element as well?
Okay, yes. So, okay, let me copy this element. Yeah, the element is correct. Let's give this a try. So we'll move cookie up. So we'll tell Chrome driver to click on cookie before scrolling up on the page. So let us give this a try. Right. Okay, so that worked. I'm going to stop this test and then I'm going to debug the test so you see what happens when it scrolls up on the page. You would see that it will bring the name fields up to the top, like bringing it into focus. So if I debug this again, good. So this breakpoint is basically putting like a temporary pause on this line. So this line has not yet run. My first name field has not been filled in yet because I put a breakpoint there. So if I go into the website, you can see that the fields are now brought to the top for me because previously it was like this. So JavaScript basically scrolled this field, the first name field, into focus for Chrome driver to proceed to do the rest of the things. So if you're unlucky and you try it without JavaScript and the test is not running, you can try it with JavaScript and see what happens if you tell it to scroll up on the page and fills in all of the values. So there are two options for everyone to try. You can try without JavaScript first of all. If the test is running fine, then that's good. If the test is failing and it's saying that it can't find the locator for the first name field and the page is looking like this, then I would say you should try the JavaScript method, and then it will scroll up on the page for you. Then you can tell Chrome Java to fill in the rest of the values as well. So we are going to leave this in our code. So I'm going to press play, like resume program. So just on this corner of the screen that says resume program, and the rest of the field should be getting filled in for me. And it's passed. Good. So this has passed. So right, you would have always noticed that whenever you run your feature files or any of the scenarios in the feature files, you would have noticed that whenever you run them, your Chrome driver is just always here. And you probably always have to like click the cancel button just to like cancel it by yourself. Did I cancel? You probably just have like click like the X button to just cancel it by yourself. So there is a method that you can use, that you can tell Chrome driver to use to close that for you. So there's something we call driver.close. Driver.close. And there's also another method that we call driver.quit. You will probably be assuming that they do the same thing, but they are slightly different. And it's just always good to know the difference between driver.close and driver.quit, because you never know when you may be asked or anything like that. So I'm going to send us resources just to like read on driver.quit and driver.close, just to know like the difference. It's just like a small little article you can read on it. And you can also research on it further by yourself as well. But when we have driver.close in our pack or in our step definition or wherever you're using it within your automation pack, when we have driver.close, the method basically closes the current browser window that the driver instance controls. And it does not close the web driver instance that's already been started up. But if you're using driver.quit, so this closes all the browser windows and also ends the WebDriver instance as well. So close only closes the browser window, and quit closes the browser window and the WebDriver instance. And I always recommend people to use driver.quit because it just closes everything instantly for you and just clears out like all the resources that were used as well, or basically cleans up the resources that were used. So that is just the simple difference between driver.quit and driver.close. So I'm going to use driver.quit, like I said, and we are going to try to run this. And I want you to take note of the apps, the Chrome app at the bottom of my screen here. And you would see that you shouldn't see it anymore once the test has run. And that is because I've just used driver.quit method in my automation pack. So we would run the feature file. Good. So you can see it closed the browser, the Chrome browser for me, and it's no longer down here anymore. So that is what driver.quit does. So going forward, you should be using driver.quit because you don't want like a lot of Chrome instances opened up on your system, and then you have to like be closing them manually as well. So you might as well make your life easy by implementing driver.quit in your automation pack. So moving back into our feature file, I think I'm gonna need the form again. Okay, so moving back into our automation pack, our feature file. So we currently have a valid course registration, or I want us to write another scenario for invalid course registration. And in this case, I am going to be omitting one of the compulsory fields. So I'm going to be omitting the email address field. So I'm going to fill in these, all the other ones. I would not fill in email address. I'm going to click on submit. And what should I expect to happen? Can someone tell me, please? Quickly. Sorry, can anyone hear me? Okay, so when I click on the submit button, sorry?
Registration unsuccessful.
Yeah, so the registration should be unsuccessful, and I should get a warning message around this email address field to say that the email address field is empty, or the email address field is required, or the email address field is missing a value, something like that. Because the field is compulsory, we can see the asterisk here that shows that it is a compulsory field that needs to be filled in when you're submitting the registration. So I'm going to go back into my IntelliJ and create a new scenario. Invalid course registration. And then I'm going to copy what we already have up here and paste. I'm going to paste here and change the email address and then something else also. But when I paste it now and I make my changes, I want you to notice something, and I'm going to ask everyone a question and I want responses, please. So given I navigate to the website, I fill out the first name and last name, and I omit the email address field. Fill out the rest. When I click on the submit button, then a warning message is shown on the email address field. Good. So can someone tell me what a note is for this invalid scenario? Quickly, please.
The line 22.
The email field and the then is not white, it's yellow.
Okay, so there are two lines that are highlighted, and that means that the step definition is
not defined.
Yeah, and the other ones are fine. So can someone tell me what is currently happening?
They are not binding, they are not glued.
Connected.
They are not connected, yes, sir.
So which one is not connected?
I omit the email address field.
Okay,
And
yeah,
the
then step, yeah.
bit, yeah.
But what else can you tell me about what you can see now? Like the other steps. What else can you tell me about the other steps? Anyone? Okay.
They are not yellow, they are not highlighted, so they are
And,
glued already.
I also saw
Yeah.
that on line 20, there's a round red sign, and by the other scenario is green.
Yeah, that's, I think the reason why this one is red is because we've not finished defining the steps. But the keyword I was looking for is that the steps that are not highlighted are being reused from the valid ones. So basically, we are reusing the steps from the valid ones for the invalid, because you can see these are going to be using the same step definition. All the ones that are not highlighted here are going to be using the same step definition for the valid ones. So when you're writing your automation test, majority of your steps or some of your steps would be reusable anywhere else in your feature file. And that's just something that happens. So your given step, if it's the same URL given and navigate to the website, you can use that like in 200 different places in your feature files, and it's going to be connected to just one step definition. Because if I go in here, it's showing me the step definition on line 25 for the valid scenario. If I go to the invalid, it's showing me the same step definition on line 25 for the invalid. So that basically means that the steps, the given step here are being reused basically. So some of the steps that you would use in your automation pack will probably be reusable based on the feature steps that you are writing. So because we're dealing with registration right now, we have a lot of reusable steps in here. So we are going to be writing the step definition or creating the step definitions for the ones that are currently highlighted. And the way we do that is just a reminder. We click on anywhere on the yellow or orange part. You see the orange bulb, click on that, create step definition, and we want it to be created in registration step definition file. Click on that, and we have that created down here. I go back to my feature file, and I want to create a step definition for the then step, the same step again. And I have it created down here as well. Great. So I need to fill in a code value for, and I omit the email address field. So me omitting the email address field basically means that I need to get a locator for the email address field, then go back into my IntelliJ, driver.find element by XPath or by name or by ID dot send keys. And what keys would I be sending? That's a question I want everyone to think about. I'm omitting the field. What keys am I sending? What's the value of the keys I'm sending? So while everyone is thinking about that, I'm going to go up to my previous email address step definition and copy the locator that is there, because it's going to be the same locator. Come back to and I omit dot send keys. So what keys am I, or what value am I sending in, please? Can someone quickly tell me? I am omitting the email address field. What keys or what value am I sending in?
I don't know. Do we have anything like null?
No, you will leave the bracket empty.
Who
Yeah,
said
the
that?
Do we?
Dorcas.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Dorcas. So the value or the bracket or the double quotes is going to be empty. You just need to leave it the way it is, because nothing is going to be filled in. Because you are omitting the field, you're not filling in anything inside. So you just need to leave it empty the way it is, like this. And now I'm going to go back into my feature file, and I'm going to put a breakpoint on when I click the submit button, because I want you guys to see what value is being filled into the email address field. So right now, I currently have 2 scenarios in my registration of feature file. But if I want to run just one of the scenario, the way you do that is, if you want to run the valid scenario only, you need to click on this icon here and click on run. If you want to run the invalid, you click on the same icon, you click on run. So I'm going to click on run right now for the invalid one. Actually, no, I'm going to click on debug because I have a breakpoint in place. So if I click on debug, my test is going to stop on, like Chrome driver is not going to click on submit, the submit button, because that's where I put a breakpoint, because I want to show you guys something. Oh, there's a breakpoint. Yeah. Wait, why is it running? Oh, yeah, it's meant to run this one. Sorry, I'll remove the breakpoint here. If we go back in here, it's filling in the rest of the values. Good. And it stopped on when I click the submit button. So if we go back to the website and we scroll to the email field, you can see it is empty as expected because we want it to be empty. We didn't put in any value in the brackets. So the field is going to be empty, is going to be omitted. So now if I click on submit, so this is me trying to fill in the code for the then step. I clicked on submit and then it brought me up here and it's telling me that this field is required. And that was one of the sentences I said when I was asking everyone the question that what happens if I omit the email field and I click the submit button, what happens? It's meant to tell you the form shouldn't be submitted, and it's meant to tell you that one of the mandatory fields is empty or it's required. And the warning message that we have here is this field is required. So if we go back to our IntelliJ, we have, I'm just going to stop running this one. That's fine. So we have a then step that says then a warning message is shown on the email address field. And in here, let me open up the website again. I'm filling this one. The other ones are not, this is mandatory, but I'm going to omit that. The other ones are not compulsory, so I'm going to leave them. I'll click on submit. Good. So we have submitted the form, but the form did not go through successfully. So now the then step is where we are going to carry out an assertion. And I mentioned a couple of assertions last week, Friday, and we used one of the assertions as well. And I think it was assert true. So did anyone look into the assertion resource that I sent, and can someone suggest the assertion we would be using today for me? I'm going to give everyone just 2 minutes. What assertion are we going to be trying out today? Can someone suggest the assertion that I am meant to use here? So I'm guessing no one read the assertion link and the purpose of the mentor.
Blind assertion.
Sorry, what did you say?
Fluent assertion.
I didn't get what you said, please.
Someone sent a message.
Let me see. Assert fail. So someone said assert fail, and someone was saying something as well. Okay. So
Fluent
assert,
assertion.
sorry, could you repeat that again?
Fluent assertion.
I honestly did not get that.
Fluent assertion.
Sorry, could
It's
you
a
type that in the
fluent.
chat
It's
box?
a fluent assertion.
Fluent assertion. I've never heard of fluent assertion before.
I think that's on social.
Oh, okay. Mr. DJ, is that something we can use in this case?
No, I think you're asking different thing, aren't you? This is Java, isn't it? So N unit comes with fluent assertion.
So is that something we can use? Because I've not used fluent assertion before.
Yeah, we can just use JUnit as an assertion, which is fine.
Okay. Yeah, so someone said assert fail, but I think it's called assert.fail. So we can verify that this field failed. And then we can also use another verification to verify that this sentence or this block of, or this container for this field is required is present on the page. So we can use assert true to verify that the container for this sentence is present on the page. You can also use a simple one called assert equals that is basically going to verify the actual and expected and make sure that they are the same. So there are different types of assertion you can use. If you understand what the assertion does, then you would know what type to use and what type not to use, what type to use when, and other things as well. So that was why I sent the assertion link into the chat. So the reason for us sending links there is for you to further your knowledge on it. We are not going to cover every single assertion. I think the assertion that the link I sent shows you syntaxes for the different assertions as well. So it'd be good if everybody takes a look at all the resources for all the URLs that have been sent into the group for your own good, for your own personal development knowledge as well. So today we are going to be looking into assert equals, and that assert equals is basically verifying the actual value and the expected value. So the actual value is what we put inside the code, and the expected value is what Chrome driver finds on this website. Right, so if we move back into our IntelliJ IDE, okay, before we move back, we need to get the locator for this sentence. So we're going to be asserting that this sentence is the same as the sentence we're going to put into the code. So we are going to inspect. This field is required. And we have the block of code here for that sentence container. So if we copy the X path, and we have one match. Good. So if we go back into our IntelliJ, and we're still going to try to find that element, because in order to tell Chrome driver to get the value of something from a website, you obviously need to tell it to first find the element before getting the value. So we start by saying driver.find element by XPath. And in this case, the action we're going to tell it to perform is not going to be send keys, it's not going to be click, it's not going to be is displayed. It's going to be get text. So it's going to be getting the text that says this field is required, full stop. So when you are using assert equals, you need to be conscious of the sentence you are verifying against in your code. So if there's no full stop here, and in your code you're telling Chrome driver that the actual one has a full stop, but it does not have a full stop on the website, then your test is going to fail. Then it's gonna show you. I'll show you what I mean by that. So we're gonna try that one out. So it's gonna tell you that I'm expecting this field is required, full stop. I'm expecting this field is required, but on the website, I found this field is required, full stop. Those sentences are not the same. There's a full stop missing. So like I mentioned, and I've mentioned before, Java is case sensitive. If it's capital R, it needs to be capital R. If it's small, it needs to be small. If there's no full stop there, don't put a full stop there. So we have driver.find element. This is the element we are finding, .get text. And then if we now write our assertion requires 2 arguments inside of it. So assert equals and assert equals requires 2 arguments. So the one we are going to be using is string. So it requires expected string and actual string. Let me see if I can open it up properly. So string, okay. Let's try this one. Yep. So this is the assert equals we are using. You can see there are different types of assert equals. There's the assert equals actual, expected, and message. We would try to use that one later on. But the simple one we're going to be using is assert equals. We are expecting a string, actual string, and expected string. So actual string, I always get this part confused, actual and expected. So expected is what Chrome driver is going to get for us. Actual is what we are going to fill into the code. So if we go back to our step definition, what Chrome driver is getting for us is the expected string, and this is it right here. So we've told it to find the element and get text, get a text that the element is wrapped around. So when it gets that text, it needs to store the text somewhere in a container. So this is where we use the string data type. And I believe I've mentioned string data type before. So the string data type is what we are going to be using to store the value that Chrome driver gets from the website. We're going to use string data type. We're going to store it in a container called expected warning message. And you can see that the value that Chrome driver has gotten here is now assigned to this container called expected warning message. So if you want to use the value that Chrome driver has gotten anywhere within this step definition, you just need to call the container name and the container name is called expected warning message. So we know that assert equals requires two parameters, an expected and an actual. So we've gotten the expected message. So we need to define the actual. So the actual message is what we're going to give or we're going to provide in the code. And the actual message is what is already stated on the website. So to make life easy for me, I'm just going to copy this just the way it is with a full stop and everything. So I've copied that already. I'm going to go into my IntelliJ, and I'm going to assign that value that I copied to another container. And that new container is going to be called actual warning message. So the container name can be anything you want it to be as far as it is meaningful, because you don't want the container name called ZZ. ZZ is okay as a container name, but it doesn't pass across anything meaningful, because if someone else is looking at your code or anything and the person is trying to understand what is happening, the person just going to be like ZZ. Okay, ZZ is containing is a container name for this particular string, but it would have been good if ZZ had a meaningful name. So container names or string names should always have meaningful meanings. Like just let the word be meaningful, basically. So I'm going to revert back to what I had, and that says actual warning message. And the actual warning message was this field is required, just the way it is on the website. So now that I have done that, I need to assign all these two container names into my assert equals method. So actual comes first. So right. And based on the way the method takes the parameters in, the actual one comes first and the expected. And I already have my actual here that says actual warning message, a comma, and the next one is going to be the expected warning message, a bracket, and my semicolon. So this is basically us doing another assertion or verification on our then step. So right, I'm going to run this test now, and let's see what happens. Is Scrum driver going to find this exact same sentence? And is it going to do the comparison for me as well? So basically what's going to happen is assert equals is basically comparing two values, the actual and the expected. The actual is what we've already stated here. The expected is what Chrome driver is going to get for us. So once it gets it, then the comparison then happens. If this field is required full stop is the same as this field is required full stop, then I'm expecting this line 141 to pass. And basically my test case passes in general. But assuming there's a full stop, I missed out a full stop here and the comparison is done, it's going to fail. So we're going to try that out. So first off, let's go back to our feature file and run the invalid course registration, and let's see what happens.
Onya, I think you're mute. Oh.
Right. Sorry, I didn't know how I went on mute. But okay, let me just repeat what I just said. So, as we can see, Chrome driver, as we can see, the test passed, and the validation or the comparison was done. Now, I'm going to show you something interesting. So, before the test runs fully, I can sort of determine what the value of expected results, expected warning message is going to be, because that is what Chrome driver is going to get for me on the website. And once I find out what that value is, I can do the comparison manually using my eyes, or I can use a tool in IntelliJ as well. So how do we do that? I'm going to put a breakpoint here, and then I'm also going to add my driver.quit on line 143 as well. And right now, I'm going to go ahead into my feature file and debug this invalid scenario. So let's do that. Oh, forgot to remove this one. I'm going to tell you to click. I want you to click on that one for me. Okay, so did I put a breakpoint? I'm not sure. Wait, what happened? Let me try that again. I'm going to debug again. I'm sort of expecting it to go. Let me put the breakpoint here instead. Because I wanted to just get the value. I don't want it to do this. And then let us debug again. Good. Good. I'm just going to resume the program, and I'm going to let the debug point or the wait point wait on line 141, which is what I actually need. Good. Okay. Now, so this is where I'm going to sort of get the sentence that Chrome driver is going to get for me. And you can obviously see it. When I clicked on, when I just placed my cursor here, you can see it's telling me that the sentence or the string that Chrome driver got for me was this field is required. And my actual is also this field is required. And if I'm to do the comparison manually with my own eyes, the comparison passes because the values are the same. This field is required full stop. This field is required full stop. Another way I can do the comparison is to either highlight this whole sentence without a semicolon, right click on evaluate expression, and let me see. Okay, let me first close this one. And let me highlight expected warning message and click on evaluate expression. And if I click on evaluate, it's going to give me the string that Chrome driver has stored in this container, waiting to be used. Good. If I close this, and I obviously know that my own string that I have filled in, which is the actual one, is this field is required. I don't need to evaluate that because I can see it there in plain sentence. So now if I want to perform this comparison now, I'll obviously highlight it, right click and click on evaluate expression. Assert equals means that if the actual and expected are the same, then the result should be true. So this is already saying this field is required full stop. And this is saying this field is required full stop. So if I click on evaluate, why is it showing undefined? That was meant to be true. That equals. Okay, hold on. Let me check the previous assertion that we did. That was assert true. Right, okay. Okay, so when you do the assertion or the comparison for this one, it shouldn't give you assert true because it's not expecting a Boolean value. So the comparison should be done separately, and then if the sentences are the same, then it should pass. But if the sentences are not the same, it would fail. So I'm going to show you a case of where the sentences are not the same. So my actual, I'm going to remove the full stop that is there. And obviously, assuming I made a mistake and I forgot to add a full stop, and I'm just waiting for my test to pass successfully, but it fails, it should show us where the error is and also the comparison error as well, so you know what you're meant to fix. So if I stop this test that is currently running and I go back into my registration and I click on run invalid course registration, how was it meant to pass? Let me rebuild. I don't know, I've always had to like rebuild my project so that it picks up the latest codes. Because that should actually fail, not pass. Let's run again. Good. This is what I want. So we can see that it says a warning message is shown on email address failed. And you can obviously see what it's also telling you as well. It says expected was what Chrome driver found on the website. So the expected has the full stop in it, but the actual, which is what I typed into the code, did not have the full stop. And then obviously the test failed because there was a mismatch in the comparison. So this is just a simple error that is being shown or displayed in the IntelliJ console and is honestly easy to read. It just says expected this but found this. So that means there's a mismatch in the code, and that means there's a full stop missing in the actual message that I put within my step definition. So all I need to do in this case is to go into my step definition and put a full stop there. And when I run the test, that should pass. So we're going to rebuild the project again and run the test. And that should pass. So while that is running, the next two items that we add on our list is scenario outlines and background. So I think we can look into scenario outlines first of all, before we look into background. So that's what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna wait for this one to run. Good. So after resolving that error that it showed me, I put a full stop in and I ran it and then it passed. Good. So looking into scenario outlines. So scenario outlines are used when you are trying to like test more than like a lot of data. So assuming you're trying to test login scenario, for instance, you can have 50 datas that you probably just want to like test for that specific scenario. Maybe not up to 50, maybe like 3, for example. And in that case, you don't want to have this particular scenario repeated 2 other times within your feature file. So what you can do in that case is use what we call scenario outline. And you can see it's already here as well. It's already been suggested, scenario outline. When you click on that, the other thing you also need to specify when you're using scenario outlines is you can see that we just type scenario outlines and it's showing us a red line, but it's already giving us a suggestion or a solution to what we are missing out. So we are missing out the example session. So it says examples session is missing. You can either say create example sessions, and that's already been created here, or we can create it by ourselves as well. Examples. Good. So before we start filling out the data for our examples, I'm going to determine what I want to have in the example session. So what I want to have in the example session, I want to have first name data, last name data, and email address data as well. So I'm going to start by saying first name, last name, email address. And I'm going to fill out what the values are. I currently have address. Another data I'm going to fill out is an email address. Good. So now that I've filled out some set of data, I need to use this key subheadings inside my Gherkin step. So I need to use first name, I need to use last name, I need to use email address in my Gherkin steps. And they obviously need to be used where they are required. So first name subheading is going to be used where first name is required. Last name subheading is going to be used where last name is required. Good. So how do I do that? And I fill out the first name. All I need to do is to add 2 double quotes and then 2 greater than and less than sign angles. And in order to make life easy for me, I'm just going to copy the subheading I have here because they need to be the exact same thing. Copy and paste. Do the same for the last name. I'm just going to copy and paste. And you can see something else is happening here. So when I use the subheadings here, the coloring on them also changes as well. Is this one? Yeah, that's correct. So you can see the coloring on them changes also. So the reason why email address is grayed out is because I haven't used the subheading anywhere within my Gherkin step. And I'm also going to add that here for the email address and paste. And you can also notice that because we have a different Gherkin step now for line 5 and 6, we need to create the corresponding step definitions for them, because now line 5 here is now different from line 28 that we have here, because line 28 here is taking in the values that are being imputed in the step definition. Meanwhile, for line 5 here, the values are being specified in our feature file. So they are going to be considered as 2 different Gherkin steps that require different step definitions as well. So create my step definition for this one. I click, create step def, registration step definition. That one is done. I'm coming back there. Then I'm going to do the same for this one. Good. Now you will notice something else is happening here. If I look at the first, given I enter my first name and last name, you can see that it's not taking in any parameter. It just has the open and closing brackets. If we look at the new one we just created, you can see it's taking in 2 parameters and they are meant to be string values. And the parameters that is going to be accepted is first name and last name. So the parameter names can be anything you want it to be as far as it is meaningful. I always just use meaningful things as my parameter names or my container names. And the same also goes for, and I enter my email address, is accepting 1 parameter now. And the parameter is, I'm going to call it email address. Good. So now that we have 2 parameters in here and 1 parameter in here, I obviously need to get the locator for the first name and last name field and then send keys into them as well. So I'm just going to go back to the top and copy what I have for the first given I enter my first name and last name, because it's the same locator I'm going to be using. So I'm going to copy all of this. And I'm going to come back down here and paste it. But now my send keys are going to be taking in data from somewhere else, and that data is coming in from my feature file. And the way the data is getting supplied is through the header name that I have specified here. So all the first names will be getting picked up based on this header name, and they're going to be supplied into my step definition using the argument I have specified for that header name. So right now for my send keys for my first name, I'm going to specify that my data should be coming in for my feature file using the first name argument. You can see it's already there. First name. And the same also goes for my last name. I want the data to be supplied from my feature file, and I've specified the argument name as last name. Good. So now I'm just going to do the one for the email address as well. I'm going to go back to the top and copy the locator that I currently have for the email address. So that's going to be this one. And I'm going to paste that down here. So the send keys is also going to be different because I want my data to be passed in from my feature file using this header name that I have here. So it's called email address here. And that's going to be picked up using the argument name that I have in my step definition. So the send keys is now going to be accepting data using this argument name, and it's going to be called email address, which is what I have here, email address. Good. So now I'm going to run my scenario outline for the valid course registration because that's the one that I have the scenario outline for. And in this case, can someone tell me how many times Chrome driver is going to open? And yeah, can someone tell me how many times Chrome driver is going to get opened up for this valid scenario? How many instances of Chrome driver will be opened?
2.
Thank you. So we're going to run this now, and we should see that opening up twice. So let us run. So the first one is going to fill in o test at test.com. All the other fields, click on submit. Open another Chrome driver, but it's obviously close that one because we have driver.quit. Open another Chrome driver, then fill in Tanis, Yaz. The email address is going to be tester@test.com. Fill out the other options because they all remain the same. And then click on submit, then close the web page for us. So you should note down the name that is being filled in here now. You would see it's going to be different. Yaz, Tanis, tester@test.com. That's the second data that we have. Good. So that opened up Chrome driver twice and it closed it twice as well. And you can see it's also listing out all. So usually you would see something like this, but you don't just need to click on this tick that says showed past. When you click on it, it's going to show you the scenarios that were run. So we have the first one that picked up o test@test.com. And the second one that picked up Tanis Yaz, tester@test.com. So that was run twice, and that submitted 2 different forms based on the data that I have supplied. So that's just how scenario outline works. You can have like 5 different data here, as many as you want. It's going to open the WebDriver instance based on the number of data that you supplied here, basically. So yeah, that is how scenario outline works. And the last thing we'll be looking at quickly tonight is what we call backgrounds. And background is, how do I explain this? It's basically like a grouping mechanism. So you can see on line 4 and on line 27, they have the same exact Gherkin step, and they're also using the same exact step definition as well. So we can group them as one. So instead of having it in 2 different places within your feature file, you can have it just in one place. And I would always recommend, or it is always recommended, that you keep your background short. Not too many lines should be in your background, and it should not be more than 4 lines. Normally you can have 5, but 4 to 5 is fine. And what else do I remember about backgrounds? Yeah, I think that's just the major one. Like, just don't let your backgrounds be too long. Keep it between 4 to 5 lines. Obviously, that also means that it should be short as well. So right now, we have just 1 sentence to add into our background, and that is because the sentence or the Gherkin step is common to the same scenarios that we have. So this given I navigate to the website is common to the valid and also the invalid as well. So where do I put my background? My background stays at the top of my scenario or my scenario outline. So after the feature tag. So I start my background by typing background. You can see it also comes up being suggested by IntelliJ as well. Background. And all I need to do is to copy the Gherkin step that I want to move to my background. Paste that. So once you've pasted that there, you then need to either delete or comment out what you've copied into your background. So the way this background is going to work is Chrome driver, when we run the feature file now, we're going to run the whole feature file. When we run the feature file now, the background is going to be picked up first. It's going to, Chrome driver is going to navigate to the website. Then it's going to come into your scenario outline and go on to the next step, which is to fill in the username, password, fill all the other fields, click on submit, do the verification. Then it's done. Then it's going to go to your invalid. Then it's going to go back to the background. Once it's opened up the website, it will then come back to your invalid scenario, fill in the first name, last name, omit the email address, and all the other fields. Click on submit, then do the verification for the warning message, and that is it, done. So the background is going to open up how many times? So I'm asking a question now. How many times is the background going to be run? And how many Chrome instances are going to be run as well, based on the scenarios we have in our feature file? Can someone tell me? How many times is the background going to be run? And how many Chrome instances will be opened when running this whole feature file? Okay, so the answer is 3. So the background is going to run 3 times. And because we are running the whole feature file, 3 instances of Chrome driver would be opened up as well. We have 2 instances of Chrome driver for the valid because of the number of data that we have, 1, 2, and 1 instance for the invalid because we only have to run the invalid just once based on the data that we have in the step definition. So I'm going to run the whole registration.feature now. It's going to start with background, then go into the valid first of all. As Onyin test@test.com. And this is for Tanis Yaz. Opening up the web page. Then it's going to run the invalid. Good. So you can see based on the result, let me see if I can find the final result. It says it ran 3 scenarios, 45 steps in 1 minute, 23 seconds. So the 3 scenarios are 2 valid, 1 invalid, 1, 2, 3. You can also see here, it's showing you the valid one, valid course registration. We have 2 examples there, 1, 2. The invalid, we only have just 1, and that makes it the 3rd one. So that's just basically how you use backgrounds, scenario outlines in automation. And that's just done for tonight's class. And I'm
Hello.
happy to pick up questions now.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry, can you please explain scenario context to us, please?
Sorry?
Scenario context.
Scenario outline.
Scenario context.
There is nothing called scenario context.
Okay.
Do we have any other question?
Okay, for the scenario outline, can we use it for both valid and invalid? For example, under the email, let's assume we have the test at test.com. Then the other one, maybe we have tester, then we'll forget to put at, then we'll run it. Is it possible to use it for something like that?
Yes. So let us try for invalid scenario. Scenario outline. Well, I'm just going to check something quickly. If we use the wrong email address here, let me see what happens. Is it going to give us the same error message? Right. Okay. Okay, so this is giving us a different error message. Please enter a valid email address. We can, I don't want to confuse everybody. Okay, okay, I'm gonna try something now. Examples. So this is us entering. I'm really hoping this is filling in an empty field for me. So I want you to omit. I want you to omit the email address for me, but yeah, let's see what happens. So I am filling in 2 values here for my email address. I'm going to fill in an empty one and then an invalid email address that says test. So in here, I'm just going to duplicate this step. In here, I'm going to put in the example header. Old email address, and then I need to create the step definition for this one. And then I need to specify my argument name called email address, just something meaningful. And then I need to copy, hold on a minute. And I need to copy this one here, which is my locator. And obviously, because I'm using the same argument name, so that's why this one is getting picked up as well. So this one works. I can decide to use email underscore address, and that means this one needs to be changed to email underscore address. I'm just going to use email underscore address here. And if I go back into my registration, that basically means that for this field, the values that are going to be picked up are two different values for the two different scenarios. This one, and then this one. Now, if I run my test, because the warning message is different for an invalid one, I'm just going to let that one be for today. But I'm just going to show you how you can use the scenario outline for the invalid as well. So if I try running this one, this should fill in an empty field for me for the first instance for the invalid, and the second instance should fill in just test for me. So let's run. I'll rebuild the project, then run. So you can see it didn't fill in anything in that email field. But the second one is going to fill in just test for me. Test, okay. It's going down. Good. So I'm expecting the second one to fill because the warning messages are different, but I don't want to modify that warning message right now so I don't confuse everybody on the call. So you can see it says expected, please enter a valid email address, but what I have within my code is this field is required. So I can decide to have an example header here for warning messages and specify the warning message for the different error messages that I'm meant to get based on the value I'm putting in. So that can be done in a different class. I don't want to do that today, but this is basically how you use, we can use scenario outlines for like the email address fields that we are trying to validate. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have any other question for tonight?
Yes, good evening, and thanks for the session. My only question, you've answered part of it, which is the fact that I wanted to ask why and when do we use scenario outline, which you've actually said we use it to fill out the email session, which is the text field. Thanks for that. And I also wanted to ask, should we say that the background as well could be referred to as scenario context, or is there any difference between scenario outline and context, please?
Context. So the context that I know about is it's like a folder on the left-hand side here. So I don't know what you mean by context in the feature file. So I didn't catch the name of the person that asked the question.
Yeah, Emmanuel. Yeah, I did ask the question because I've actually come across scenario context whereby and the reason why the question even popped up in my mind is the fact that in scenario context we use containers as well and the background. But it's just that I'm not too clear with it at the moment. So that's why I'm asking just to get a bit of clarification from you, please. Thank you.
So scenario context. Scenario context. I'm just checking. Is that what is using C#?
Is it?
Because I'm just doing a Googling on my phone now.
Okay. Maybe that could help. Sorry
Yeah,
to
I'm not looking into C#.
bother you.
So it looks like feature context, scenario context, it looks like it's used in C#, but not in Java.
Okay.
I don't really know much about C#, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And Mr. Deji is not on the call anymore. But yeah, we don't have scenario context in IntelliJ when you're using Java.
Okay, thank you. That's all from me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have any other question, please? Do we have any other question? I know tonight's class, it may be a lot, but I'm just going to encourage everyone to watch the video, try your hands at what we've done, and bring your questions into the QA Guild group chat. We are going to be having a workshop on Thursday. And I don't know if I'm going to be on the call, but it just depends on my schedule. But there's going to be a workshop on Thursday, and will probably be anchored by Onyi Phillips if I'm not around. But before Thursday, everyone should kindly go through the video. Please reach out to your colleagues for help. And I don't want you to come into the training session and then you're showing us your step definition. You're asking me what you want, what you need to do next. That's why we have videos. We've done a lot of videos on step definition. Please watch the videos before you come into the training session and also try it by yourself. Oh, Adetunji, your hand is up. Sorry, I just seen that.
Yeah, it did work. Immediately I locate the cookies. Yeah. Though when I had driver.quit, it's failing. So I was like, maybe because I've not maximized the window.
I don't think it should fail. Can you just make sure that the driver.quit is within the right bracket?
Yeah.
Try maximizing the window and then adding driver.quit. You can see if that works as well.
Yeah, because yours, okay, because before you were having maximized window on yours. Driver.manage.the okay, you've removed it. So I'll try it again.
I didn't remove it, it's just here.
Okay, because I didn't have this on mine.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's why it's failing. So I'll add it to it, then add the driver.quit. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Do we have anyone wanting to ask any question? In the absence of question, I'm just going to end the class here today. And good night, everyone, and see you on Thursday. And on Friday, we're going to be looking into page object and hooks. So it'll be good if everyone is up to date, because now we are moving as we're meant to move initially. So we have a training after each topic or topics that we've looked at, then we move on to the next topic. So we don't want anyone to be left behind. That's why I keep saying, if you need help, if you need assistance, please speak up. Don't be quiet. Reach out to anyone you want to reach out to, post in the group chat, come to the training sessions and share your video. And don't just come empty-handed. Try things by yourself, because Onyi and I are going to ask you what you've tried. And if you tell us you've not tried anything, we'll just tell you to go and watch the videos back again, to be honest, because that's why they are there, to be watched and for you to experiment as well. So don't come to the class empty-handed. Try stuff by yourself. And if nothing works, then you can reach out to anyone for help. So yeah, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, and good night.
Good night.